a Bible tale, a story of
you know I do. Oh, I thought you were asking to end the call, to which I was going to say no.
No. Well, I was asking because if you had said like 3 minutes or 3 hours and 50 minutes, I'd be like, okay, we can end on a Bible tale, but it's not going to be half hour, so we'll just tell it now. Then
I still want the Bible tale.
We talked about Elisha some last week. You guys remember? He's one of the Jew wizards known as prophets from the Old Testament who magic things. He's the guy who they called him bald head, all the children, in the town. And then he summoned the 2 bears to slaughter the children and told them, that'll show you to be a little snarky from now on. And so that seemed like an Am I the Asshole story where he was totally an asshole. And so I wanted to even it out a little bit. Like Elisha couldn't have been that bad. God gave him superpowers. And so here's a better side of Elisha. Mm-hmm. So and it's a more obscure Bible tale, so a lot of people won't know this one. So there's a guy named Naaman, and Naaman was a general for Syria or Assyria, whatever the fuck it was back then. And they didn't get along great with Israel. If you read the Old Testament, it's pretty much just over and over Israel being like, and then we ran into the Moabites, and they were total assholes until we conquered them. And then we ran into the Ammonites, and even bigger assholes till we conquered them. And just kind of that story. But they weren't getting along at the time, and Israel had the lower hand. He was more powerful. And this guy, Naaman, had leprosy. And leprosy, obviously, very bad. I don't fully understand how you can be like a general and have leprosy, because I feel like it's super, super contagious and anybody would get it. But he did. He had leprosy, and he wanted to try and get it cured. They tried everything, honey rubs, goat milk, all the things, all the classics, and nothing worked. And so he goes to his king, I'm going to go seek out the king of Israel, because that dude has this guy Elisha in his bench, and he's magic. He's an actual magic man who might be able to save me from leprosy. So I'm going to go give it a go. And so this guy reaches out to the king of Israel and goes, hey, I'm coming over. Don't panic. Just coming over for a bit. If you could hook me up with Elisha and try and heal me, that would be awesome. And the king of Israel is like, this is so shady bullshit. Like, there's no way he's coming over. He's going to come try and conquer us. And Elisha overhears the message that was sent to the king of Israel and goes, hey, just send him straight to me. Just send him straight to me. It's going to be fine. Send him to my little hovel, my hobbit home, wherever I live. And so this guy, Naaman, brings gifts, chariots, gold, spices, all the stuff that you want back in the day. And he shows up at Elisha's house, waiting there. He's got leprosy. The boils are so sore. He's been walking over the desert all day. Imagine doing that in bullshit sandals and covered in pustules and boils with necrosis occurring on your little appendages. And he's waiting out there, waiting, Elisha, you coming out? Elisha, sitting in there, tells his servant to go out and tell him, hey, I'm not available. I got a lot of stuff going on right now, so I'm not coming out. You're not going to see me. Just go bathe in the Jordan River 7 times, and you'll be fine. And Naaman is pissed. He's like, I just brought look at how many people are here right now, and how many chariots and how many things. I brought all of this just to be like, he told him, like, I expected you to come out and wave your hands and place hands on me and get rid of this leprosy. And instead you tell me to go take a dunk 7 times in a dirty river miles from here. It's ridiculous. I'm going home. And so Naaman's about to head back. And of course, apparently one of his servants had seen a Netflix series at one point, because he's like, no, dude, this is obviously like a woo gotcha kind of thing that he's doing. So let's give it a go. We're going to stop at the Jordan River on the way back. Either way, we have to cross it. Just dunk yourself. Fuck. And so they get to the river. He dunks himself 7 times, and he comes out pristine, clean as ever, completely cured. And he is like, so he's elated. He tries to send all the gifts to Elijah, so just give it to him. I don't care what he says. Just make sure that guy gets it. This is the best. Like, I'm not going to die. I'm great. Like, praise to the Israel God. Sends him all the gifts. And Elisha again says, no, I'm not taking any gifts. Take him back. And so Naaman's like, whatever, dude, fine. And so he takes all the gifts back, brings them home. The guy doesn't have leprosy. What Elisha's servant then does is some really sketchy bullshit. He goes to Naaman and says, that whole gift thing, hilarious story. He thought that you wanted a gift from him, and he said he didn't have one, but we definitely want all those gifts. We want all of them. All those gifts you brought the other day. I'll lead him back there. I'll bring him back. Okay. And Naaman's like, okay, cool. Yeah, I trust you. You just saved my life. So take it. Take the chariots and the gold and whatever and keep it. And this guy, Elisha's servant, ends up keeping all of it from Elisha and doesn't tell him that he took that gift. And so this guy's now loaded off of his ass, off of a bunch of stuff that he didn't do for Elisha. Elisha, of course, is a wizard of sorts, a prophet. And so he figures this out. I don't know what the servant thought he was going to do by pulling the wool over this guy's eyes, who just cured leprosy. He just cured somebody's leprosy, and he's like, this is the guy to screw. Like, fuck this guy. And so he gets it. Elisha finds out, brings him in. It's almost like he's getting fired, where you get called into the office and it's quiet and it's, we've had a lot of discussions in the past about issues of behavior. You've read our code of conduct and our ethics policy. You know how we do things here at Jews Incorporated, and this is not how we do it. And the servant, expecting just to get fired or let go, like, oh, I can't help this old wizard man anymore with his daily duties in between curing people. And Elisha flips the script and goes, actually, you're going to get leprosy. And he goes, actually, no, that's not it. All of your descendants will have leprosy. Now get out of my house. And so this servant, for stealing stuff, gets venge leprosy from a prophet. And that's not even enough. It's if you do manage to get laid with your necrotic leprosy cock, that kid's popping out like, covered in welts and boils and whatnot. Like, your whole livelihood is ruined. It's all for nothing. And there's no chapter in later books where they revisit it and they say, you know what, it's been years. You've learned your lesson, haven't you? And he goes, my tongue fell out, but I and then he goes, okay, fine. They cure him. Like, no, it doesn't happen. They just let him die of leprosy. So really, he didn't even cure leprosy. He just transferred it to another soul.
That's what
now,
happened.
At the start of it, you said, hey, I'm going to paint Elisha in a kinder light. I'm not sure
if you
did
cut out
that.
the last few lines, it's as positive as Elisha gets. Those Old Testament prophets, like the stories they tell you about them in Sunday school, are not the interesting stories with those prophets. They'll tell you the ones of like, oh, and then he came out and he, there's blindness, and he put his hands on the guys and the scales fell from his eyes and he was able to see once more. They never tell you the fun shit about bears attacking the children or vengeful leprosy given out by a madman who won't accept gifts from an enemy general who he cures of leprosy. And to be fair, the end game of all of this is that Israel conquered Moab, those people there in Syria or whatever it was. So in the end, it's like, hey, you don't have any leprosy, but we're coming to kill you in like 3 weeks anyway. And that did end up happening, and they slaughtered 10,000 in the city and conquered it for 80 years. So it did pan out for Israel.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Yeah, that's the thing with Bible stories in the Old Testament. If you take off like the last 15-16%, they're very uplifting.
Yeah, those always end really harshly. It's almost like some Roman senator came back later and put something in there to frighten the masses.
Yes, fluoride.
Fluoride. That makes them gay.
Fluoride. That's why all these
Senator Alex Jones, I believe.
Senator Alex Jones.
From the great state of crazy motherfuckers and scam.
I believe that was Governor Jesse the Body Ventura.
I love that.
Elisha never cured that leprosy. It's a rumor started by the establishment to let them take full control of healthcare in this country. That's the level of stuff he says.
Yeah, he's great. He lives off the grid, as he says, in Mexico.
In Mexico?
Yeah, he lives in Mexico, off the grid.
Is he rich? I can't tell. He looks poor.
Yeah.
He looks like he should be begging for money in New York City.
He looks poor, but not in a money way. He just looks poor. He has a poor look about him. He looks like things haven't gone well in a long time.
I mean, just a couple books after that, Elisha orders a lot of children to be murdered by bears because they mocked him for being bald. He's a very sensitive prophet about that, at least. Yeah. Did you know that? You know that story? That's the whole story. They said,
spoiler.
look, they said,
Hey,
oh,
Bass,
look at.
tell your flesh from your bones, and
That's what it is. It was they said, and they called out to him, bald man, or something like that, and that was enough for Elisha to be like, all 40 of these kids are useless garbage, trash. And then God's like, I let you control these 2 bears just for like the next 15 minutes, though. Don't go crazy. And then he uses the bears to murder all the children, and they not a single one survived. And when you think about it, that's like all the farmers, all the workers in like the little village nearby, like they can't survive that. They've put too many resources into these kids already. But they shouldn't have been such a bunch of loudmouths to that prophet.
Put all your eggs in one basket with those kids. Shouldn't have done it. Yeah, you kill 40 kids in like biblical times. Like, Jesus Christ, that's an enormous amount of kids.
Too many kids to murder for that joke.
Even with Sodom and Gomorrah, like okay, I get it that these are like they were breaking God's law and being immoral or whatever they were up to, butt fucking. But that one part where like Lot offers those rapers his daughters, his virgin daughters. He's like over these strange men he just met in the darkness. Like he just met some strangers at night, and the crowd wants to rape them. They must have been some good-looking guys.
Yeah, there's some horrible, horrible parents in the Bible.
The worst.
That, they didn't have chicken soup for the soul or anything to go off of. So, you make a lot of mistakes.
He turned his wife into a pillar of salt.
You make a lot of mistakes.
Then Lot fucked his daughters.
I mean, you got to keep the species. You got to keep. I mean, technically, they didn't really need to fuck his daughters as much as he probably wanted.
Well, they got him wasted. They plied him with honeyed wine. It was not his fault. We all know you get enough honeyed wine in you, who knows what could happen, right? Your wife turned to salt.
Yeah, I've been there. I mean, not the wife turning into salt, the honeyed wine.
The honeyed wine. That's mead, right? Like, or is that? Isn't mead a honeyed alcoholic beverage where they?
That much is true. Isn't it a beer though? Mead. Am I crazy, or is it just its own thing, mead?
I would think it would be a kind of beer.
Fermenting honey with water and fruits.
Okay, and then grog. Grog was rum and water, right? And then with a pirate drink.
Are you shitting me? That is
no. It was the only way to make sure your water wasn't bad was to add rum to it.
Oh man, there's no way that water tasted at all acceptable on a hot ship
like
day
grog
full of rum.
And they had that issue with scurvy, because they're eating nothing but like salted dried beef or meat or whatever, and drinking grog, so they're getting no vitamins.
Yeah, it's all just liquid dead calories and alcohol and salted pork.
Salted pork. The salted pork is particularly good. Salted pork. Wow. I find you drinking and smoking and feasting.
It's from the extended scene in Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, when they come upon flooded Isengard, and Gimli sees Merry and Pippin sitting there being smug cunts, smoking and eating, and he gets very upset. Like, I've been trying to save you guys, and here I find you drinking and smoking. And I don't do a good Gimli, but that's what he says. The funniest part about the Bible stories is reading through them again beforehand and being like, they did not mention this part in Sunday school. They glossed over this.
I remember this from Pinocchio.
Jonah and the Whale. I promise I will do Jonah and the Whale next week. That's a good suggestion.
That is a good one.
That. And anybody else who has good Bible stories, leave a suggestion of them, and the more obscure the better, because there's some interesting obscure shit in there.
Yeah, I like it when like God is really shitty to people for like some really dumb, seemingly
Old Testament reason. God.
Yeah, when he's like he's just like petty. I like more petty God stories where like some guy is like he didn't like say a prayer before he ate the fish that God gave him, and so God knocked all of his teeth out, and then like he pissed his teeth for all time, or whatever awful thing God would do to people for no apparent reason at all.
With Elijah, I'd have to remember the full story, but like he ordered Elijah at one point to like as a demonstration to his people that they'd been like super shitty for so many years. He's like, all right, Elijah, you go up to that mountaintop alone, lay on your side for 40 days. lay on your side for 40 days, and you have to only eat bread that you cook over your own burning shit. That's what God told Elijah to do. He
I
said, go
thought
lay on your
keto
side on the
sucked.
mountain. And this is
I'm on the Elijah diet. My side is raw and infected. And it's bread. This bread. I'm telling you right now, you want to lose weight, you eat a loaf of this bread. Shit bread.
It looks like rye, but it is not. You know?
And I'll tell you when it gets bad. It's not the first loaf. It's when you start cooking shit bread with shit that's composed of shit bread.
And
that's when things get rough.
And God even backed off of it because, like, he told them, I'll have to like look at this story to get all the details more, but he was laying on his side and he's like, Elijah, you can only eat like bread that you cook over your own shit. And God's like, turns to the angels like, I mean, and Elijah's like, are you kidding? Like, God, like, I don't want to be out of line here, but this is pretty ridiculous. And God actually goes like, you know what? You're right. You can use cow shit. And that was it. He lets Elijah burn it over cow patties and Elijah, the way I remember Elijah explaining it is that you can't just go back to God and be like, this is disgusting human shit, because God will be like, you defy my will. But like Elijah had to go the thing of like, Lord, I'm a beacon of you and your things and, you know, your essence inside me. Like, you wouldn't want me eating human shit. Like, that's dirty. That's for like pagans. And God's like, well, there's probably one of the rules I made up earlier that's a pretty good line with that. I did put you in charge of knowing that. So, all right, cow shit it is. But, oh man, being a prophet didn't seem like a fun job. You got to like talk shit on people though. And and no matter what you did, God was going to let you into heaven. For the most part.
I think the best job is if you're one of God's like war kings. Like if you're one of the guys who needs to go kill people for God, like he seems to have a lot of leeway for you. Like you can fuck bitches and like forget about the law of God, but you can just be like, God, look at all the cities I got you. And he's like, well, you did get me all those cities. I mean, fuck. Hey, all right. You make a point.
But Elijah never died. Did you know that?
He was carried away in the fiery chariot?
No. He was one of two people in the Bible who never died. Elijah was taken up to heaven before his death in a chariot of fire, which probably killed them en route because.
Or it might have been a UFO too. Some believe. They believe a UFO came and took Elijah up in his chariot of fire.
That's even sillier than God.
I heard a joke. Do you know why God made Abraham kill his son Isaac at 12?
Why he instructed him to? No, what'd you hear?
Because it was supposed to be a sacrifice, and if he waited till he was a teenager, it wouldn't have been.
Oh, okay. I was looking for an actual biblical thing there for a second. I was like, oh no, I've been hoodwinked. Like, that was pretty good. Damn it, I didn't see it coming.
Bad jokes are better than good ones.
And now, a word from Movement Watching.